Talks at Andela, in case this is the first time you're joining, is aimed at connecting tech thought leaders and experts around the world with techies on the continent to share experiences, best practices, lessons, anything that would really help everybody to like know more, learn more, put their best foot forward, basically. And this is the third one that we've had this year. And today we're hosting our Sene. So Al leads DigitalOcean's product development teams, including compute, networking, storage, developer experience, and billing. That's a lot. So yeah, he leads those teams for DigitalOcean. He's responsible for driving innovation and velocity in their key services and products to meet the evolving demands of customers. Prior to DigitalOcean, he held the VP of Engineering roles at DDN and NextGen Storage, which was acquired by Fusion IO and SanDisk. He has also held several technical and management roles at HP and holds patents in cloud storage. He studied computer science at St. Cloud State University, and received his MBA from Colorado State University. Welcome, Al. Thank you for joining us once again. So quickly, please say hi to everyone. Share one thing you'd love them to like take away from this entire webinar, and then you can share your skin and teach us.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. I'm super honored to be here. I'm coming to you from Denver, Colorado, where I reside. One thing about me, I love guitars. I play music. It is my way of escape and reducing the stress that comes with the job. So one of the things I would like anybody to take away from this is leaders are not born; they're made. So there are practices here that we'll be discussing that that really apply them to your career, and you will be successful.
Thank you so much. So I guess we can start the presentation now.
All right. There we go. Can you all see my screen? Great. All right, so let's get started. So quick introductions, I think that's taken care of. I can skip that part. Let me just dive in and talk a little bit about, just give me 1 second. I actually need to restart this presentation because I made some changes to it. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so I guess while you're doing that, we can take this moment to just see where everybody's joining us from. So this was open across all of Africa, and it'd be nice to know where everybody is from. What country are you joining us from? Please just take a moment to like type it in, responding to both panelists and attendees. What country are you from? You can drop it as an emoji or just like drop it in text. Let's just know where you're from. I see Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, Ghana, Zambia. Okay, so what now? I can't see someone anymore. There's South Africa. This is nice. Thank you guys. Somebody is from New York. This is super cool. Egypt too. All right, thank you guys.
There we go. All right. I am super honored to be here, to have the opportunity to talk with you all and be featured in talks at Andela. I'm coming to you from Denver, Colorado, as I said earlier. So let's get going. So let me talk a little bit about DigitalOcean. So DigitalOcean was founded in 2012. We are considered a cloud computing, cloud services company. We have raised $123 million in venture funds from multiple of some pretty A-class VC funds. 66% of our revenue actually comes from international customers. So most of our revenue does come from outside the US. We have over 500,000 customers on the platform. We're considered the third largest and fastest growing cloud provider according to Netcraft. We have 12 data centers around the world. we have 500 employees, over 500 employees from around the world. Most of them are remote. You know, in this day and time of COVID-19, where everybody is practicing social distancing, the entire company is currently working remote. But prior to that event, we had been embracing the remote culture quite a bit as a company. In fact, in engineering, where I said engineering was probably close to 90% remote. So we are very used to working with people that are all over. Let's see, we have a pretty large community that some of you may be aware of. Every month we have over 4 million visits onto the platform. And there are lots of good information on our community website, and we get to see a lot from those customers. So having worked around remote culture, having a lot of employees remote, there are lots of myths out there that I wanted to dispel for a little bit. If you do a quick search on the internet, what you'll find is that there are lots of untrue items out there about remote culture. A lot of people think that remote workers are not productive, or that they're too lonely at home. Remote employees have a better work-life balance. Remote employees do not have a work-life balance. There's both of them out there that you'll find. And some people do believe that remote employees cannot be leaders, that the setup is such that growing in a career, it can be a hard thing to do. Communication wouldn't work so well in that kind of environment. There are too many distractions outside the office, and finally, that remote workers cannot learn from other coworkers because you don't have that kind of dynamic, that interaction that happens asynchronously. So there's definitely a lot out there with regards to these myths, and in reality, what the data shows is quite the opposite, actually. According to a survey that DigitalOcean did last year in July, remote work is the new normal for developers. 86% of the developers expressed some amount of work at home or working remotely capability as part of their job. 71% of those that we survey feel very connected to their teams and everybody else because of the available technologies like Zoom or Google Hangouts, etc. Slack has been something that has been very useful as well. But the issue hasn't disappeared entirely. There are still 29% of developers that actually feel that they are disconnected from the rest of their coworkers. Burnout is real. 2/3 of those reported that they were very stressed with their work, and that is an issue that in the tech industry we have been battling for a long time. 71% of developers also expect that working remotely will improve their work-life balance. And finally, one of the stats that you'll see out there is that in reality, remote employees are 13% more productive by a survey that was done by Stanford University. There's definitely a lot of data out there and statistics that actually dispel that whole myth. So it is pretty clear that as even outside of what's happening around the world today, forcing many of us to work from home, the growth of remote work in recent years is clearly indicating that the future of work is going to be remote. But there are some pitfalls that I think everybody should be aware of, and So the question that comes up is how should you manage your career as you work in a more remote environment? What are some of the things that as a software engineer you can do to enhance your career and really be able to shine in your role? So what I'm going to be talking about is 5 strategies here to grow and have an impact in your role as a software engineer working remotely. These are practices that over the years we have paid attention to as we have continued to grow our teams. Today we have at DigitalOcean 250 plus developers that are sprinkled all around the world. So it has been, some of these practices have been proved very successful and very helpful in growing people and having them shine and take on roles and do more. The first strategy is self-leadership. Working remotely, you're going to be by yourself, right? So it is absolutely critical that you be aware of yourself. Be authentic, be who you are. Don't try to impersonate or be some different personality that you're not. Take care of yourself, and by that, there are lots to be said in there. One of the findings about our survey was that people that work remotely tend to actually work way longer hours, not pay too much attention in terms of the 8-hour day. So it's very easy to not disconnect and to just get stuck working on a problem until super late some nights. So taking breaks, making sure you eat regularly, etc. So it's really important to be grounded from that standpoint, because there's going to be fewer fewer external factors that can help you see that, okay, it's time to take a break. Have a system for proactively managing yourself, and by that I don't mean just have a checklist of how you do things, but make sure that your priorities are captured. Make sure you have a regular schedule that you're working through, and have reminders so that you know that you can keep yourself on track and not have that outside factor out there. So really walking the line between the responsibilities you have, the choices you can make, and what potential you can grow as an engineer is really important. Being able to manage yourself is going to be super critical as well because of the remote aspect of the work. So the random interactions or having your peers or people you work with not being nearby, most of them being in some other geography, really implies that you have to do a little bit more to keep yourself on track. The second step after self-leadership is to get things done, and by that I mean understand what is expected of you. Once we start a role remotely, there's a lot that involves reading, taking some onboarding sessions, getting to know people, but clarifying the expectations from the company, from your manager, your leadership is absolutely important, because you don't want to miss the mark. It is hard to grow if you're not doing the baseline that is expected. Therefore, being able to be clear about what the expectations are is something that is super important to do. Make sure to understand what you are responsible for, what the deliverables are, what is being expected to deliver and when, and etc. Second, know the agreements. What are the rules, processes, boundaries? In the world of software, most engineering teams have some form of process on how to do things. Even if you're a very small startup, there are some indications in terms of how something should be done and what is expected of everybody that is contributing. So knowing the processes, knowing the boundaries, test criteria, documentation, etc., is absolutely critical as an engineer to make sure that those things are well understood and are in place. Third, communicate, communicate, and communicate again. Never stop communicating. Being a remote employee indicates that it is pretty easy to be disconnected, right? So you have to put the tools to use. And there, I would caution, use the right modality. Know when to use email versus Slack. Know when it's time to just get on a Zoom call and talk to somebody about a problem. Know when to write a document about a topic versus sending it on Slack, for example. And make sure to find how these things how these tools can be more or less effective depending on the situation. In the world of software, documentation is something that people tend to loathe for the most part, and not do, for example. So I would say understand expectations and find what is the best way to communicate with your teams, your peers, etc. Next, once you have your main body of work understood and you're delivering on your work, start to fill the empty spaces. What that is seek out responsibilities beyond the job description. Think about what else is needed. Get to know your peers, get to know how the product you're working on comes together. Take on work, start taking work that benefit the team. Create tools that everybody can leverage for a task. Find gaps and problems. Look for things that no one wants to do. One of the best ways to be productive and demonstrate results really quickly and have an impact on a team is to start picking up things that nobody wants to do. And a lot of times that can result in deeper appreciations, but you start also building expertise in areas that other people may not want to take on. But you're also providing value to the team and making the team better, and starting to fill that white space between the teams on the team. You get the opportunity to experiment as well. You can try different areas by just observing what the team is lacking. So sometimes people will say, this is a problem with this team. Nobody's doing anything about XYZ. Being able to just take that on and fix it. I call it carrying your own sunshine in some ways, that that to not get caught up in the complaint side of things, is to just take it on and say, okay, well, I'll fix it. My favorite topic on this one is, sometimes some of the test cases would fail. I used to work at a place where we did not have a good way of testing our software. We knew that there was a check on the hardware that needed to happen prior to the software being tested. So a lot of times when the hardware was not in a good shape, well, guess what? The test would fail, and then people would be encouraged to not do anything about it. So one of the engineers at the time developed an amazing tool that actually did a health check on really dozens and dozens of parts before those can be used for testing, and validate those and really build an infrastructure for the team. And today that person is a technical director at a pretty large storage company. So So don't neglect, all of those little tasks that can help a lot. And these don't have to be big things. A lot of times, small documentations can help quite a bit in terms of just making the team function better. Discover new things, learn, contribute, and share. The thing about being a software engineer, one of the things that attracted me to this profession years ago was that I realized that it wasn't specific to a particular domain. There are always other areas to practice. There are other things to learn. Um, the industry moves so fast. There's always new things you can add to your portfolio as you move forward. Um, there's been a democratization of software. Years ago, it used to be super expensive to actually have to get the tools and what you needed to deliver code. And today, with the rise of open source and the internet and everything that is available online, you can add to your portfolio as much as you want, and as interested as you are, and as much energy as you have to take these on. But also you can do more. As you discover and do work in a particular area, learn a new technology, apply it to solving a problem. You can write a blog about it. You can share it on social media. You can post the article. And my favorite, you can participate in an open source project and be a contributor, and really starting to have that portfolio visibility that can shine for your career and allow you to really make your own self and create your own name, your own brand, and so on. 4, start to learn and understand the big picture. Most engineers, when they start, they end up working on a small piece. And once you establish that baseline of delivering and getting the understanding of that first level, start looking at the picture, start being interested in how it all comes together. What is the shared purpose of this organization? What are we trying to deliver? Take a step back and understand the system view. What is the overall architecture of this software that we are building? How do all the pieces fit together? If there are other teams involved, understand what the relationships are, and just be curious about that. Because ultimately, software is delivered for a purpose, for a customer to meet an objective. So being able to see that entire big picture is really helpful in setting the context. Any software developer will tell you that the context is very decisive in terms of the meaning of a variable. I think the work that we are all doing, it makes more sense once you look at it from a larger picture in terms of how it all fits together. Actively contribute to making the system succeed. Start to think about what can you do from what you control to make everything more successful. Not just this little piece that you're responsible for or this team, but how the entire system could work, and again, start identifying those gaps and those problems that exist that nobody's doing anything about, that you could help resolve. Explore interests, curiosities, and passions. Learn new tools. You can always take new e-courses. There's so much material out there. There's never been a better time in the world to be a software engineer, and I think it really shows in many ways as you look at the stats and how there's been this massive simplification of how software is developed. Therefore, there are changes happening, lots of innovation, lots of opportunities out there. Share what you learned. This is super critical because I've always heard the expression that you learn better if you start teaching what you're learning, but sharing it with your coworkers, right? If the environment is such that everybody's very focused on the technology that they're working on, it could be that there's a new technology that has been created that actually solved the problem that you wasting your time on. So that is a perspective to keep, because we live in a time of continual change, and there are lots of innovation out there that allow you to actually continue to be way more productive in what you do by just focusing on what you want to do best. At DO, we have this saying that what we want to do is get you from your idea to production as quickly as possible. And I think there are lots of other companies out there that serve that purpose and help that purpose by by developing simplifications and tools that solve point problems, so that you can focus on what you do best and solving what your business need is, versus wasting time on a piece of technology that may not be the right fit. So sharing is really important. Holding virtual tech talks to talk with your team, your coworkers. Every Wednesday at DO, we have a what we call Munch and Learn, which really stands for learn while you're having lunch or breakfast or dinner, because we're a worldwide company, so people can can bring their food and watch something. But every Wednesday somebody presents on a topic, and this is a great practice. Is for just raising the bar across the organization, and and just learning new things. Number 5, have an impact. First, build and foster relationships. Software is a team sport. So you have to find the shared purpose of what you're trying to build, and what the ultimate end goal is for the company, for the product, how you want to serve your customers. Again, be a mentor. There are always new, people coming onto the industry that don't have your vantage point, your experience. So being able to be a mentor, it just raises the bar, because you're contributing to somebody. But also as a mentor, I've always found that I end up learning a lot from somebody by mentoring them with regards to a particular technology, a particular aspect of career, a particular industry aspect as well. So it is a very gratifying, thing to do, because it gets you out of the day-to-day thinking that you could get stuck on, especially as a remote employee. Collaborate. There are always conflicts when it comes to doing technical work. Some people want to do it this way, some other people want to do it that way. so especially in a work environment or shared purpose or shared project, look for mutual benefit. Try to be very creative about how you want to solve those problems, explore solutions, and there are really no limits from that standpoint. It's just a matter of and the willingness to just be creative to solve those problems. There are lots of technology discussions that sometimes are more on the dogmatic side of things, where one person might believe that this is my favorite way of doing it, and a different person might be approaching it from a different standpoint. So this is where having that knowledge of that bigger purpose and the architecture can really help, because then you can solve the problem and move on, and not get caught on the small problems. Solve bigger problems. Widen the circle of influence. The key thing here is to start knowing who your key stakeholders are. Who are the people that are interested and have a benefit from the work you are doing and are responsible for? Get past some of the boundaries. Software is a team sport, but it's also a sport of teams and of teams. So today, if you're developing any kind of software, you have to rely on a number of other teams and external products and so on to build it all. The monolith no longer exists. We're at a time of microservices. We're at a time where a lot of the components are actually already there to leverage and use as a baseline to deliver your solution. So it is absolutely important that you know who your stakeholders are, but also widen the circle in terms of what your collaboration and the people that you need to have as your allies look like. Enroll people in your ideas. The engineers that stand out, the ones that shine, are the ones that are able to articulate their ideas and get other people to understand it. And this is not a one-time thing. It's repeat, repeat, repeat. It's changing the message to find what works. It's realizing that a presentation can change depending on the audience because different people have different needs. If I'm talking to another engineer about this great idea I have, the way I will present that is likely going to be very different than if I'm talking to, let's say, the CEO, or if I'm talking to a sales executive or a product marketing person or a marketing person. So I think being able to learn how to share ideas, experiment is a really good skill to have. Hackathons are super important for engineers to connect with other engineers and see what else is out there. How are other people solving similar problems? What can I learn from others? Software is great as a single person endeavor, but it works even better as a team, and connecting with a larger community is absolutely important. One of the things we do at DigitalOcean once a year, in the month of October, we hold Hacktoberfest, and I think some of you may have participated in that activity, in that event last year. We held several hackathons throughout Africa. This picture I have here is the one that we did in Accra. So this is a great event. You get an awesome t-shirt out of it. You get recognition of your peers, but you also get to connect with other people, and you never know what happens once you connect with other people. Somebody may have a great idea that'll be the startup that you end up working with next time. Somebody may be stuck in their career, and all of a sudden you make a contribution to them by just sharing a thought or a different perspective. So really go out there and create the community, because it's really important to have that. A lot of innovation comes out of that, and just the ability to just continue growing from that standpoint. Finally, putting it all together, this is a cycle. The steps that I showed, you can grow your career, but every time you get to that next level, it's a little bit of a reset. And the reset side of it is where the self-leadership comes in, because what got you to point B is not what's going to get you to point C. So you have to continue to be keenly aware of where you are, what you need to learn, and be willing to take on developing yourself and adding on to your portfolio, your skills, your talents, and discover new things. With each new role, each new growth area, there's going to be some time of personal effectiveness that you have to build up. I got to point B. Okay, how am I going to be effective in point B? What's going to be different about it? I was the software engineer writing code and writing test code, and now I'm the team lead. What does that mean? What should I do differently? What's the perspective I need to develop? Oh, all of a sudden I get promoted and I am the architect. Now what? What should I do? What should be different? How should I approach the problem? And for some of you, one day you'll find yourself being the founder of a startup. How is that going to be different than just writing code? You have your own company now, your own teams of teams. How do you approach that differently? And from there, having that team impact, realizing what you need to do to pull the team together, filling that white space, operating in the area where not a lot of people want to operate in, making that team productive. Stepping back a little bit, you start operating at the organizational level. You pulling together the teams of teams and giving them a purpose to move forward. And even more, as you continue to widen the circle, you'll get that community impact. And you realize that, okay, I need to revisit myself and who am I, what's my role here? And then the cycle repeats again, and you can just continue to grow. That was my last slide. We went through those. Thank you, everybody, and I'm really, really honored again for having had this opportunity to spend some time with you today. Thank you so much. Have a good day.